Okay, so what I want to do is walk you through um, how to actually conduct this research and how you want to think about using these resources. Remember, the question that we're answering is how will electromagnetism change the way we live our lives in the future? And how will it make life on Earth more sustainable? And that's the key question. And the model I want to bring you through starts here. So we're going to answer the sub questions together so that when you have to do this independently over the next 2 days, you are set up to succeed. So you know exactly what to do, and there are no questions. You know exactly how to think about each resource and what information you want to gather from each resource in order to build your argument and kind of create your presentation. So thinking about this model, I'm going to go to the example, the page that you have on your screen, and it looks just like this. And the three sub questions that you're trying to answer in your research for each resource is A, what is the impact on people in our communities? B, how is this impacting the health of the environment or the earth? And C, how is the content, which is your knowledge of electromagnetism and all of these forces that we've learned about, connected to how we can live our future lives? And for each of those questions, we have like a further CFS that gives you more detail on how you should be answering each question. And the example we're going to be using this or doing this kind of process and think aloud process with is with the video link that you have access to. There are two links that I included in your classwork. Just in case the first one doesn't work, try the second one, but one of them should work. And I'm confident that one of them will work. So if they're not working, then there's something that you are doing incorrectly, but they should work because I tested both of them. And one of them is a YouTube link, which should work if you're able to listen to this video in the first place. So let me go back to the presentation. Right, and like I said, each question has like a sub question, or each sub question has a criteria for success. And let's think about like what you should have for each of them. For sub question A, you want to provide a strong and direct answer / argument to the question. For sub question B, you want to gather data and examples and information that can be used to support your answer and argument on how. And for sub question C, you want to think about what is the science from this unit that we've been studying thus far this year, and what is the relationship between the science content and how it proves an impact on the health, environment, and people. And here's our example that we're going to be talking about today. It's a video that discusses hoverboards and potential applications for those hoverboards. And you will find, like I said, that video is in your classwork. It's right here. It says riding with new Hendo hoverboard in 2014. Startup ArxPax made headlines with the Hendo hoverboard. With some helpful input from Tony Hawk and others, now we have the Hendo hoverboard 2.0. And you're going to watch this video link, which looks just like this. You're going to play this video link. I'm going to pause right here. And then the next part of this video will actually be a recording of this video. So I'm going to pause.
Hey guys, I'm Brent Rose, writer and fleshy projectile. Today we're talking about hoverboards. No, not these fake-ass bullshit, no hovering, fire-bursting, wheel-having wheelie boards. We're talking about honest-to-goodness hovering hoverboards. So we're here at ArxPax in Los Gatos, California. We're going to check out the brand new Hendo Hoverboard 2.
My name is Shauna. I'm one of the engineers here at ArxPax. We do magnetic field architecture. This is the original hoverboard that we built back in October of 2014.
This is like the board that Tony Hawk rode.
This is the board. Tony Hawk came in, took it on the ramp. You want to take it for a spin?
I do.
The only person who hasn't worn a helmet is Tony Hawk.
Yeah, I am not Tony Hawk. Oh, this is so cool. Oh yeah. I'm hovering, Mom. Can I push off you? Woohoo. All right. And what is the remote control doing?
Kill switch, in case you go flying off.
Got it. Okay.
That's the original. As you hear, it's a little loud. That was one of the things we strive to improve in our 2.0.
Obviously, what we're standing on here is not your standard concrete street. We're on copper, yeah?
Yes, we are standing on copper. There's a magnetic field that's generated in the engine. It's a dynamic magnetic field, which means it's changing. And when you put that in proximity with an electrically conductive material, it creates an electric circuit. And that electric circuit, in turn, creates a secondary magnetic field. And those two repel each other, and that's what creates the lift.
Really heavy.
It is heavy. It's very conductive.
So this is the 2.0.
Yes. As you can see, it's definitely a different form factor than the original board. We had some input from Tony Hawk, actually, about staying with the skateboard deck, the classic look that people are kind of familiar and comfortable with. Underneath here, we've got our battery pack, much larger and more energy dense, so we have a longer runtime. 4 engines, that's the same, but they're a slightly different configuration, so they are a little bit more powerful, we get a little more lift from them, and a little bit more efficient as well.
Cool.
This one, you can just push the button and it lifts off all by itself.
And is it sort of more maneuverable at this point?
Yeah, we've got these skateboard chucks and they're on either end. As you rock your weight back and forth on this deck, these engines are going to move and they're going to tilt a little bit. It allows you to give a little bit of input.
So I can just basically shred the gnar.
You can try.
This gnar's not going to shred itself. Oh yeah, it's way quieter. All right. Oh yeah. I can't really, steer or control myself, but definitely more stable than the original one.
Drop it low, let me play that back.
Oh yeah, this is so fun. Yeah, hands work pretty well for steering, but I feel like we can come up with something better. Not really doing much. There we go.
How about we add some closed loop control to this problem? So this is our White Box Plus. It's sort of the generic embodiment of our technology. 4 engines in the bottom. There's a microcontroller inside, so we're actually redirecting the magnetic fields.
The engine's actually pivoting in their places?
Yeah, the engines are actually actuating so that the magnetic field orientation to the surface here is changing.
Is that something that maybe you guys are thinking about for like the Hendo 3.0?
Absolutely. We can take this up to something that's hoverboard size, something that's more industrial.
A Hyperloop pod, perhaps?
Perhaps. We'll see.
Interesting. Oh, it's so cute. Feels springy. I'm not pushing too hard.
Want to drive?
Yeah.
Small touches.
Small touches. Yeah, this actually feels a lot like just flying like a Phantom type drone. Sorry. Yeah, good boy.
So this is just a single engine, same as the ones in the white box, and this is just to allow you to get a sense of what that one engine is actually doing. So.
Oh yeah, wow. It probably looks like I'm muscling it right now with my hand, but it's actually just the rotation of my wrist. It's very Ouija boardish. Can you use these things to like contact dead roboticists and physicists?
No, we should try that.
10 people actually bought these on Kickstarter,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Some very lucky kid out there is like building their own copper skate park in their backyard right now. So what did we learn here today? Well, first of all, hoverboards are awesome. Yeah, I couldn't carve like I would if I were on a snowboard, but we could already see how that sort of thing is possible just by tilting the little engine. And that small adjustment was able to provide more control and more power than that stupid leaf blower, which was an abject failure. And that brings up an interesting point. Most of the Hyperloop designs we've seen so far require forced air moving a pod through a tunnel. According to Greg Henderson, ArxPax's CEO, pound for pound, their magnetic system requires just 1/4 the amount of power as a fan-based system for propulsion. If you're looking at a system as big as a Hyperloop, that would be a huge amount of savings, and it's definitely something that should be investigated. What do you think of all this technology? Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe to Wired if you haven't already. With all that being said, there's really only one thing left to do.
And great, now that we've just watched that video, you should have learned different aspects of like, what is this hoverboard, how it works, how it actually utilizes the content that we've learned thus far this year and applies it to this real life example. Think about the first question. what is the impact of people in our communities? When you think about that video that you just watched, there's a specific reason why, there's a specific reason or a way that the hoverboard can impact people in our communities. When you think about that video, the Hendo hoverboard seems to be a technology that is only accessible to people who are able to afford its price, because it seems like a pretty pricey device. However, with time and as the technology becomes more readily available, the technology behind the hoverboard can be used to create a more technologically advanced way of transportation. When we saw that towards the end of the video, when he talked about potential applications to a hyperloop, and if you don't know what that is, you should definitely look up what a hyperloop is. It also is another application of electromagnets in the real world. So in your example, I'm going to make sure that we get this to your actual, so you can see this right now on your screen. If we take this for the answer A, here's what I got. Give me 1 second, I'm just pulling it up. And great, so for answer A, here's what I got. You don't necessarily want to copy exactly what I have, you don't have to, but you should have pretty much the ideas that I have for part A so that you can use it for your research as an example. So this must also be included on your classwork as well. Not necessarily word for word, but the ideas presented on your screen should be included on your classwork. When you think about how, for that video, the Hendo hoverboard, how is this impacting the health of the environment and Earth? How is it making the world more sustainable? How is it efficient? And this you kind of have to think outside of the box, but he does mention it towards the end of the video. He talks about how the hoverboard uses less power than a traditional like fan hoverboard would use, or a fan model that presses air off the ground to get that sort of levitation off the ground. And here's what I got for that part. So for part B, let me just make sure I can copy and paste that so you can see it on your screen. And keep in mind, you do want the level of specificity that I have in each of these answers. That's the level of specificity you want for each of the resources that you research, whether that's a video or whether that is a specific website or article that you're reading. So here's what I got. The hoverboard, because it doesn't use a traditional motor or even gas like motorized scooters and Vespas, would not add to the increasing air pollution that cars and gas motorized scooters would use. Similar to the electric scooters and skateboards, the hoverboard will allow people to travel without having to exert energy, unlike a traditional scooter and skateboard, which require the user to propel it forward with the use of their legs, like a normal skateboard or a scooter that you've seen. Also, the hoverboard can also be used for recreation purposes solely, such as a new type of X game, similar to street skating and snowboarding. That's where Tony Hawk comes in. Great, so now we want to think about the last question, part C. How is this content, which we're talking about like what you know about electromagnetism and all of the forces we've talked about, the two that comprise electromagnetism, which are electric and magnetic forces, using your knowledge of that, how is this content connected to how we can live our future lives? And here's kind of the thinking that I have for that specific question. 1 second. So the Hendo hoverboard works by using two magnets that repel each other. This is the science content that connects its use to how it can improve our future lives. So the Hendo hoverboard works by using two magnets that repel each other to provide the lift of the hoverboard. There is a magnetic field that is generated by the engine of the hoverboard that creates an electric circuit between the engine and the copper floor. This creates another magnetic field on the copper floor, and both magnetic fields repel each other, which causes the lift of the Hendo hoverboard as well as propulsion, which is movement forward. And this advancement in technology can be used in the future to potentially create a hyperloop pod system where electromagnets are used for propulsion, which is moving forward or backwards, instead of a fan or air-based system, because it is more cost-effective and efficient, making it more sustainable. This is pretty much the level of detail that you want in each of your um, uh, answers for the research for every single resource that you are using. You want to keep in mind these sub-questions. Remember, sub-question A, you can provide a strong and direct answer or argument to the question. Here's my argument. It talks about how the hoverboard can be used specifically for transportation. Um, Part B is you giving different examples that can support your argument. So there are different examples of how this hoverboard can be used and what makes it more effective and beneficial, and how it impacts the health of the environment, and how it's sustainable, why it's efficient. Like I said right here, as the video states, the Hendo hoverboard uses a quarter the amount of the power of the traditional fan-powered hoverboard, and that is one of the ways that it impacts the earth because it's using less power. It's more sustainable. And in terms of cost effective, it's a lot cheaper to power the Hendo hoverboard system, to use that system rather than an air propelled system. So when you're thinking about more grander scales, bigger scales of this technology, not just like a hoverboard, but applying it to actual like transportation from city to city, country to country, state to state, in a hyperloop system, it's far more cost effective and cheaper to use the technology from the hoverboard system rather than a traditional fan powered hoverboard. And part C, you're connecting the science content to how it can actually impact our lives. That's pretty much what you want to do for each resource, like I said. And once again, the information that you see on the screen here should be some combination, some summarized version, or the exact text that I have here needs to be in your model on your classwork, so that I know that you have this as a guide. So when I look at your examples further below, like when I look here, there is no reason why I shouldn't see the same level of specificity that is included in my model, my example. One other thing that I wanted to show you is the model template. So on day 3, you're actually going to be making a model, like a model drawing of any of the representations of electromagnets in the real world that you've done research on. So if we take a look at my specific model, you'll see that I modeled pretty much how the magnetic fields, pretty much how electromagnets work in the hoverboard system, and how it actually causes the hoverboard to lift off the ground. And I also have a caption that explains that as well. So you'll also need, on the 3rd day, you will be making a model of your actual representation, whatever one you researched, and you're going to explain how it works, the science behind how it works, and draw a model for that. Let me go back to the slides here. One other thing that I wanted to talk about was the rubric, the CER rubric. We've talked about this rubric before, so this should be pretty straightforward. If I scroll down, here's an example of how to think of your CER, which is going to be super helpful. So I would definitely take a look at that on day 3. But thinking about the rubric, it pretty much talks about what you need for a strong CER. Your CER, that includes your claim, your evidence, and your reasoning. Your claim, obviously, we know is a statement or conclusion that answers the original question or the problem. They should be in one concise 1 to 2 sentences answering that question. Your evidence, you should have some type of analysis and interpretation. The way you want to think about that is, for your evidence, what did you see? What does it mean? So you want to state the evidence, but you also want to say what it means. Another thing you need to include is your reasoning. You need to connect, how does your evidence allow you to make that claim? Why is your evidence important, and how does it help support the claim? And whatever science concepts, whatever science background is included in your research, you want to make sure that you include that in your reasoning to further tie and connect your evidence to your claim. One thing I want to name, and I want to be very explicit, there is no reason for you to be copying and pasting from any of the resources. It should be in your own words. If you look at my example that I have up here, all of this, it's my words. Yes, I did cite like this specific part that the Hendo hoverboard uses a quarter the amount of the power, but that's it. Everything else is my words. So when I look at your research, if anything is copy and pasted, it's an automatic 0 because that's plagiarism. So that means you're using someone else's words as your own. It doesn't matter if it's for research. When you're thinking about, like when scientists actually do research and they look up different resources, they're trying to figure out what sources, what information to use to help them solve a problem. They don't just copy and paste directly from the internet or from the source. They summarize that information in the best way possible, using just what they need. So you should not be copying and pasting at any point. Like I just mentioned, any copying and pasting will result in a 0 for that specific resource. So I want to name that again. There should not be any copy and pasting, and it's very obvious when it is copy and pasted. And I actually have a Google extension that actually just identifies what it's been copied and pasted and where exactly you got that resource from. So it's very obvious, and it's just a waste of your time. It's you're better than that. I want to see what you know. I want to see how you think, not what a resource that I gave you thought. So once again, I'm going to say this again because it's super important. There should not be any reason for you to copy and paste from any resource. You should be summarizing it in your own words. It's called paraphrasing. And I will pause right here.